So a few days ago, I finished Don Quixote, and now I'm kind of seeing him everywhere, especially in this book I'm reading, which is Mimesis, The Representation of Reality in Western Literature by Erich Auerbach. Now, what's amazing about this book is that it's actually nonfiction. It's written by a professor who was exiled in World War II, and he's writing about the history of Western literature. What's amazing, though, is that he's doing this all from memory, as in he's writing these huge chunks of texts that he has memorized from ancient Greek to Latin to French to Italian, all from memory. And then he writes his analysis of the text that he's memorized in a very impressive way. And so I'm seeing a little bit of Don Quixote to the author here, because they're both exceptionally well read, and they're both able to offer their insights about the reading, kind of like how Don Quixote could, in the moments that Don Quixote was given free rein to rant and to share his vast bibliographic knowledge. And like Don Quixote, the author here is also operating on a very outdated framework. Don Quixote, obviously so, but Auerbach is perhaps not as much, because Auerbach is talking about this kind of luminous foreground and Abraham being fraught with background, and is based on this really outdated metaphysics of surface versus depth. Even though I know many people still believe in this idea of surface versus depth. Twitter recently shared this video of David Fisher making this kind of word salad of transcendental meditation, all with these diagrams of here's the surface and here's how you get depth, with all of these kind of circles descending towards some kind of luminous core, this kind of consciousness as layers of an onion with enlightenment at the center. It all sounds pretty, but it still offers this very egocentric view of enlightenment. And it produces the same mistake that Auerbach makes. This idea that the meaningful is always behind the visible. That capital T, truth, that's a thing, and it's your job to dig deep and to find it. And many still believe that there's more truth to the world that we don't actually see. There's some higher meaning, some deeper spirituality, or some other kind of grandfathered language of this hierarchy of experience, some other colonial drawing of boundaries and borders, some other belief in quantifying these qualities and measuring them. And so now I'm halfway done this book, and I spent a very long part of it vigorously resisting his position and pointing all the flaws in his argument. His belief that Abraham's experience has more depth to it than Jeremiah's, that's questionable. His comparison of the centuries in the making anthology of the Bible against a single work of Greek text is comparing apples to Michelin meals. It's so unfair. His interpretation of texts are an indication of the reader community that he's a part of, and it's not an indication of the text himself. He's talking about himself as a reader and less about the Western canon as a whole. It's not about how the Western canon depicts reality, but about his own religious experience that he's reading into all of these books. And the point is, now I don't need to be persuaded by his arguments in order to appreciate this book. The same way that I don't need to be persuaded by Don Quixote in order to appreciate him either. I could just look at what both of them are doing and connect with different elements of it. So I admire Don Quixote's passion and his drive. That's impressive. His ideas are dumb, but his passion and his drive are great. And I also really admire Auerbach's intellectual materialism, because my God, this guy is flaunting his readerly education like a rap music video flaunts its bling. He writes about these passages extensively and writes them down verbatim from memory. It's so wild. I've memorized a lot of poetry in my day, and I know how hard it is to do so. And he has Latin prose memorized, pages worth of it. It's super impressive. I wish I had that kind of knowledge. It's kind of like when you see huge libraries and you're impressed by them. I'm impressed by the library inside of this guy's mind. It's beautiful. And so just like how characters in the book look at Don Quixote and they are impressed with how well read he is, even if they don't agree with his conclusions, so too can I appreciate Auerbach's literary history while not really subscribing to his metaphysics. And if it wasn't for reading Don Quixote right before this, I wouldn't be able to appreciate this book as much. I wouldn't be able to have the distance to observe and to appreciate. I'd be fighting Auerbach every line and every chapter. And I'm kind of reminded about like how when I speak with my parents now, I don't agree with everything that they believe in, but I could still be present with them and not try to change their minds. So that's it for my thought on this book. By the way, I made an app for readers called Reading Rate. I'm very proud of it. If you are a serious reader and you write down a lot of notes or you write down a lot of quotes, I think this is the app for you. Give it a shot. Thanks for watching. I'll see you again.